couldn't read. No, I'm kidding. But they were all upset because Monsignor had to take money from some.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's because of the money. Being that it's 7 p.m., we'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, and the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda are the meeting minutes, which we do not have as of yet, so if we can table those.
Make a motion to table the regular session meeting minutes and the executive session meeting minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Courtney, pull the board.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. Next item is Hashim Zaki, Class 2 license, change of business. Hashim, please come forward. Cam, where are we at with this?
It's a name change.
Just a name change, is that all we're looking at?
Just the name change because I have a problem with the registry. Every time I have to go to the customer to explain to the registry of motor vehicle, I'm a dealer. They think I'm private. That's why I just need name for the, that's it.
Okay.
Just for clarification, if you don't mind, through the chair,
Go ahead.
please.
Yep.
It'd be M&M Autos or Auto Sales?
Auto sales, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, he's the boss.
Oh, no. So on your application, it says M&M Autos, but it should say M&M Auto Sales?
Yeah, auto sales.
Is yours crossed out?
That's a business, that was a copy of the business license he filed with the town clerk's office.
Auto sales.
Maybe if you don't mind, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
no, go ahead.
I'd make a motion just to amend what this says on here with the approval. Or a second. I'll make
Second.
that as a motion. Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just officially, it will say M&M Auto Sales.
Correct.
Sales with an S, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Courtney, pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next item is the Memorial Beach Advisory Committee recommendations. Diane?
Good evening.
Evening.
So we sent you a written set of recommendations a couple of months ago that we worked on over the last several months. When we were first chartered, we were asked to review the beach fees, rules and regulations, hours of operation, staffing, and costs associated with operation of the beach. So that is what we spent several months talking about, and that's what our report covers. In order to gather information, we held meetings. Concerned citizens came. We had lots of comments, on social media, like we always do, that we took into consideration. But we also spent some time, especially Ray, spent a good amount of time looking at some of the other area beaches, because we also get a lot of comments about how our beach compares to others. So we wanted to see what other beaches were doing, what they were offering, and see how that fit with what Memorial Beach is offering.
What I did was, I particularly spent time with Wallem Lake. I spent 2 hours with 3 of the rangers out there, and I had a group of specific questions that I asked them that pertain to us as well as to them. Now, I understand they're state-run, and they may have other options than we do, but all of their problems, as far as the beach is concerned, are very similar to what we run into, as far as facilities that they have, amenities that might draw people into our beach. Where I saw at Wallem Lake, they have horseshoe pits, they have grills planted in the ground, and at Buffinville Dam, they have a volleyball court, as well as grills planted in the ground. And they have quite an adequate number of picnic tables at both facilities. They're all planted into the ground, they can't be moved. And one of our problems at the beach here is that people will go in and they'll confiscate 2 or 3 tables to a family. And some of the other information in this overview, in our submission to you, shows the conditions of our picnic tables and the lack of them. There's 16 tables over by the animal shelter. Half of those are not usable. Probably 7 or 8 can actually be taken and put into use. And as you've seen in our recommendations, we're recommending 20 tables scattered throughout the area, mounted down so they can't be moved. I'll let it go at that for now, and I think we'll have other things to cover as we go on.
So, I don't know if you've had a chance to read our report or not, but you can see that it's broken down into several areas. We talked about supervision, the length of the season, tables, grills, minor enhancements to the beach, signage, and then a little bit at the end about the concession stand. I think a lot of the problems, a lot of the times when we identify problems that go on at the beach, a lot of what we hear is that the supervision of the beach itself on a day-to-day basis is being handled by relatively young people, and also people that work, are school age, and so are not available before school lets out or after school goes back. And that is a fact of where we stand now, but we're not convinced that that's where we should be. The proper way to look at this is to say, what would we like the beach to be like, and how can we get there? We certainly understand that the current staffing level doesn't allow us to do much else. We're not finding fault with the way it's being managed. I mean, they're managing it with, given the parameters that they have and the staffing that they've used in the past. But there are plenty of entertainment venues that seem to operate outside of just those few months in the summer. Like, take for instance Six Flags. Somehow they're operating on weekends in April and May, and they're open in September and October. So our thought was, if we could get some adult level help at the beach, then we could overcome some of these issues, one of which is the length of season. People are using the beach in April, but we're not collecting any money for that. People are using the boat ramp, and there's no supervision there, so they're loading and unloading in ways that are damaging to the boat ramp. And we've heard that complaint many, many times from people that use the ramp. The ramp is in bad condition and there's nobody there to manage it. We don't take advantage of Memorial Day, Labor Day, or Columbus Day. And those are all big days at the beach that we're not collecting any money for. If we sold the sticker, yes, but there's a lot of people coming in. So I know that we've talked about the senior work-off program and instituting that this year, and I heard that there was money in the budget for that, although I wasn't sure what line. I tried to look today and I wasn't sure where that might be.
It's not a line item.
Okay.
But it is included. I've included 10 positions for the veterans tax work-off and 10 for the senior tax work-off.
So our thought was possibly a senior might want to work at the boat ramp and supervise the boat ramp. They would have to have some authority. You know, could we maybe our thought was even, could they possibly be given some authority to write tickets for improper loading and unloading? You know, that's something the police department and the Board of Selectmen would have to talk about and work out. But our thinking is that if there were adults involved at working at the beach, some of these problems that we have could be solved. And we could also possibly extend the season by having gate personnel there outside of the time that the students are available to work. So we're not talking about replacing anyone, you know, just adding people who would be more comfortable approaching people who are causing problems or managing the program. So that is one of the largest recommendations that we had. Going forward, we think that if you really want to improve the beach and really move it forward as an entertainment venue, the town should consider a director of Parks and Recreation. I know that's not in the budget this year, but we feel that that is, if you really want to move the beach forward, that that's a position that you should consider for future years. That person would have the expertise needed to investigate some of the things that the board has talked about with regard to, you know, potential partnership with somebody who would like to run a marina or boat rentals or any number of other things that have been brought up. The current staffing obviously wouldn't allow for that. You know, the people that are involved in running the beach don't have time to do that, or necessarily the expertise either. The grills, I did notice that on the website today, I looked at the beach rules, and I noticed that grilling is going to be allowed this year. People bring in their own grills. I don't know whether the DPW was planning to put any of our own grills down there. I don't know. We thought that the town should buy and install some grills near the tables, and that they should be attached to the ground, that they should be table height grills that are attached into the ground that people could use. We also investigated and saw a receptacle. It's about this size that would be again attached to the ground where people could put coals, so that it would be a safe place for people to dispose of their coals and not have that concern that people are going to do what's expedient for them if they're not provided with something that is useful. But if you provide them with something, 90% of the people will behave properly.
One of the problems with the grills, I think personally, is that allowing them to bring their own in, they're going to bring their backyard grills in there. Enough to have a, you know, big barbecue, as I saw last year. And with the grills being provided by us and only accepting charcoal, that would eliminate all these odd types of grills coming in from everybody. And as Diane mentioned, there are containers for the hot coals, one or two of those in the area. And the grills spread out throughout the area if we were mounting them. Not in the designated area, because someone that has to come over here to do their cooking and their table is way over here, that's unreasonable to think that they would do that. This way, if we had the grills, say, one to every 2 tables spread out, we'd have a better use of them. And you'd have better control of what's coming in.
I think for that same reason, the issue of dumping the hot coals in one location makes that difficult, because now you've got to have multiple locations to dump the hot coals, which again can be considered.
Well, if we had more than one container, you know, one on each side of the bathhouse, for example, or even spread further apart, they would be close enough to dump their coals there without having to walk all the way across the beach from one side to the other.
Again, this is exactly the way they manage Wallem Lake and over at Buffinville. So while I don't have the exact answer to that right now, you do raise a good point. There must be some way that they're managing that over there, and it would be easy enough to you know, contact those management people and discuss it with them.
Right.
Well,
But
often-
they also get state money too.
Oh, I'm not right.
Right.
Absolutely,
So,
I'm not.
right.
I'm not talking about from. I'm just talking about the dynamics of managing the charcoal grills. Yes.
Often what they do also is that they have staff throughout the day that will check the grills to make sure they're cleaned out. That's manpower, of course, and you know, that depends on what we have for manpower. But the staff itself, for example, if you have 5 lifeguards and there's 10 people in the water, you don't need 5 lifeguards at those chairs. They can be assigned other duties during that day. Not only that, as far as cleaning grills, there's no reason why they can't be painting picnic tables or raking particular areas. When they're hired, they should be expected to do other chores as directed beyond whatever they're told specifically that this is your #1 job. And that would help maintain just about every aspect of the beach as far as cleanliness and cleaning up.
And as far as the minor enhancements, Ray talked about horseshoes and potential for a sand volleyball. I know that the sand volleyball court over at Buffinville was done as a National Honor Society project. A friend of mine's son did it years ago. I know that we have some very active Boy Scout troops in Webster, and a number of those boys who do Eagle projects, who are going up through the ranks, and this is the perfect type of project that would, that a scout might be able to take on and do. So if you were to decide that you'd like to think about adding some enhancements like that to the beach, it might be a nice partnership between the town and a Boy Scout that would be a benefit to them and to the town as well.
And that was, I think it was last year or the year before, where one of the scouts
Did the
helped
booth.
build the booth.
Right,
So,
exactly. So it's a great benefit for both, for both the town and the scouts then. The scouts are looking for projects in the town, can get a nice benefit from that and also help a scout earn his badge. Signage is one of the things that we heard the most complaints about. We approached Mr. Pizzetti about the signage, and he is busy on the nights that we were meeting, so he wasn't able to ever come to a meeting, but he did tell us, we wanted him to talk to us about the signage and how we could reduce or change or make it better, and he didn't have any suggestions for us. He felt that every sign that was down there was needed, but we did not agree with that, with his take on that. The main thing we hear is that there's too many no's at the beach. Now, obviously, there's rules at the beach, but there are ways to tell people what the rules are without making it seem like you wish they weren't there, which is kind of what the impression that a lot of those signs send. So we thought it might make sense to review the signs and maybe have 1 or 2 large signs with more positive wording, laying out the rules, but not the one-off signs all over the beach. It's just something that we heard over and over again that people find uncomfortable about the beach.
Did you review the signage at the Lakeside boat ramp, the state boat ramp?
No, I didn't. We didn't.
It's more
go there.
consolidated.
Yeah, did not.
One of the comments is that, there are so many no signs in there. Might as well add one more, no fun.
We did hear that a lot. In particular, people were wondering why there's a prohibition against being on the grass at the walking track. We understand that what I heard from several people, well, it's the helipad in case they need to land a helicopter in town. Oh, that's great. But having some kids playing on the grass while their parents are walking around the walking track is not going to preclude that from happening, if that's actually the case. It's something that we heard over and over and over again. Parents want to come down there, their kids would like to play on the grass. We're not sure why that rule exists. There are several rules like that we think maybe should be looked at and reviewed. Why do we have rules against ball playing? Why do we have rules against flotation devices? If there's a legitimate reason, that's fine. But maybe these things could be revisited. Maybe we could rethink the way the beach is being.
Yeah, I think, just off the top, ball playing on that grass with people walking is probably going to mean someone's going to catch a softball in the head.
Oh, that kind of ball playing, of
Walking,
course.
playing on,
Right.
kids playing on the grass makes sense.
Of course.
I don't think we're in favor of kids taking over and playing
No,
ball there.
no.
We're interested in the young people that go there with young families, children 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, that should be able to play on the grass while the parents are walking around. They can see what they're doing, keep an eye on them, and they don't have to get a babysitter just to go walk the track. And that's the main reason why we suggested removing the sign that says just that you know, is this kid gonna pay a $50 fine for walking on the grass out there? You know, that's why some of the signs are really
It just
kind
felt
of
like, it just
ridiculous
felt like
and
some of the
over.
signs could maybe be, some of the rules could maybe be reviewed as to their necessity.
Go ahead.
Ray, maybe you remember, maybe Earl remembers, I know an old guy like me does remember, there were no signs. People could read then, or do whatever. It wasn't as chaotic as it is today. You can point people in the right direction. I understand where you're coming from. And you go in and you look. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not, they'll park a trailer in the way, you don't have access, you can't turn around, nobody can park, so you have to put a sign. Do I agree with all of the signage? No, but you're trying to tell people, oh, and you can't swim there because guess what? There's a boat coming in there. But what will you see, you know? And when I was a kid, about just before Webster was discovered, but the idea of it was that was the place to go. It was a destination. You could also go down to the pumping station. There were no rules and regulations from the state saying, oh, you can't do anything within 500 feet of a well, water well. You went picnicking. You did all that sort of thing. I like these ideas. I like a lot of these ideas. And I do agree 100%. This is my opinion, not the board's, but my opinion is, I've always said, at least I get the hours a little bit extended because at 5 o'clock, you'd have a line going up Thompson Road and everybody would come in after everyone went home. At least they made it a little bit longer. But I noticed, and I'm not picking on the young folks because they're going back to school, getting an education, which is fantastic. But the idea of it is, I says, here you are like a week before Labor Day, or maybe 2, and there's nobody there. So everybody, it's a free-for-all. And I'm saying, what kind of revenue are we losing there? The revenue that could maybe do some enhancement
Yeah,
to
and
these projects that
right.
could build and build and build. That's only my thought.
And it's not only the revenue, it's that when the beach is open on a holiday and there's nobody working there, it does become a free-for-all. And there are, people complained last year that there was a lot of trash and that there was just a lot of, you know, there was nobody there to control the traffic that is coming in. So your option is to lock the gate or to have somebody there managing it.
I think a lot of these signs came about maybe 10, 15 years ago when the rates were very cheap and we were getting inundated with so many people there. We found problems there. But it seems like since that time, we've come up with a sign to cover just about everything that can happen at the beach. For example, the big sign by the bathhouse, it has no gambling on there. What sense does that make? No
Well,
gambling. And I've marked on here several other items on that particular sign which just don't reflect today's image or whatever you want to call it. It's irrelevant to today.
The pictures in the back are pictures that Ray took down at the beach, and he put comments next to them, and he's right in a lot of cases there. It just sends an odd message, I think.
Yeah, I think we use the word haphazard, but I think you're exactly right. Something happens, so put a sign up.
Mhm.
It wasn't really haphazard, but it appears that way.
Another thing is no animals allowed. There's 4 different signs up there for no animals allowed. I would think 1 or 2 would be sufficient. There's one in the booth when you're going in, no animals allowed. There's one at the walking track, that's 2. Do we need 4? Way down on the beach? I mean, people are not stupid. They're gonna see a sign when they come in. And they're not gonna be let through the gate with a dog or an animal in the car.
That's why we thought 1 or 2 signs that would encompass most of this. And then, of course, you're gonna need a sign maybe down at the boat ramp to explain how the parking works. You could, we're not saying that you would get rid of all these signs, but we did feel that they just seemed redundant and just send a negative message.
Also, Mr. Chair, when you talk about the no animals, I've been down there, and sit with the guys, and we have a chat, whole court, if you will, we'll relax, and you'd be amazed, but somebody will come in with a small dog, medium dog, a pony, or whatever, and you just go, but this is my dog, I'm exempt from that. You say, there's no animals allowed.
A lot of beaches a lot of beaches allow animals outside of the normal operating hours. So if you go to the ocean, you'll see that there's dogs allowed on the beach before, let's say 9 o'clock or after
Doggy
5.
hours.
And oftentimes you'll find a canister there with bags for people to clean up after their dogs. So if people, is it a rule that we might want to revisit? Could there be times that dogs could be allowed down there? And should we put
Or an area, maybe.
or an area maybe? Yeah, exactly. So again, I think it's worthwhile reviewing the rules, understanding where they came from, and deciding whether we still want them all or not.
As far as the animals, it was suggested, someone, in fact, I think started the town committee looking about a dog park.
Hmm.
And there's an ideal place for a dog park at the wooded walking track. It's a nice flat area, a cyclone fence around there, maybe 50 by 50, would be a perfect place for people to be able to go and exercise their dogs. And they wouldn't be doing their business on your neighbor's lawn so much, maybe, I don't know. But it was suggested that the town was looking to find a dog track. They couldn't put it near the animal park, the animal shelter, because of water restrictions and that, but that would be an ideal place. It's a suggestion
Sure.
that I think we've mentioned, keep in the back of your mind.
One thing we talked about, and we didn't put it in the report, but what we talked about when we first got started was having, at some future time, having automated gate system and automated parking system, and it's not as expensive as you might think. And it would allow you to collect fees outside of the normal times. It would do away with a lot of the hassle that the kids have to put up with at the, those kids, the high school kids that are working and have to put up with a lot of grief from people coming in. It's something that you might want to consider, in years going forward.
In fact, now that you've mentioned that, I have some good information that we were given by Debbie Keefe when she was on a committee with us. She researched a lot of the booths and the types that were available and the uses they could be put to. And I have it in the package here, which I'm going to leave with you all tonight, along with a catalog on supplies that might be used for the beach, grilling and tables and et cetera. And so I'm going to leave that with you before we leave.
And then the last thing was the concessions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was sorry, excuse me again. I think Selectman Starzak had once mentioned that, say, a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
And I think
the
that was-
automated gate.
Yes.
And at the time, I thought that seemed really kind of flamboyant for Webster Lake, but when we looked into it, it was actually not as expensive as you might think.
I think the idea was to maybe get some experience with the numbers first, and then look at that.
Definitely.
Is what I recall.
Yeah. The concession stand, I thought I heard a rumor somewhere that maybe somebody had put in a request to run the stand this summer. I don't know where.
First of all, that has to be competitively bid out.
Okay.
And there, yes, we do
Have some interest.
intend on doing that because we have had some interest. This is the first year in a number of years. We did issue requests in several years, and there were no takers. We even said, no rent, nothing, just come and run it. I know that last July 4th, I approached the Recreation Committee to run it. I donated all the supplies for that day, other than the hamburgers and hot dogs, the meat, so that they could make a little bit of money. And that was the only day it was open, so.
Yeah, so I remembered that, because Leslie had mentioned that to me, and so my comment was gonna be that if you don't end up with somebody that wants to run it for the season, I would wonder whether there might be other groups that would also like to take a week or a weekend, whether it be the Lassie League, the Little League, the Boy Scouts, one of the churches, where they could possibly run the booth and as a fundraiser for themselves. Just another suggestion.
The Recreation Committee did approach me and said that they actually had fun that day, so
Yeah.
they may be interested in taking a few days, so.
Another thing that we might suggest for the beach, we had a visit in one of our meetings early on from the Webster Lake Association. And they were hoping that we could recommend that they be allowed to build a pavilion up there. And something that they could use for their functions, but something that would also be available for corporations or maybe a large family reunion or something that could actually rent that space. And the best thing of it all is they want to pay for the whole thing. So it's something to consider also that would really enhance the beach with a roof, a concrete pad, plenty of picnic tables, maybe grills within it. And would really like to see something like that happen. And it's, you know, it's not a town expense, and it could be used to benefit the town as far as bringing in maybe a small amount of additional revenue and used by the general public when it's not being used by an association. So that was good information. That
I've seen it done at Pulaski Park. They built a big pavilion, covered roof, and you have to apply to the ranger station and pay a $50 fee, have family reunions and stuff, so
But
it
they're
does work.
totally
They have
willing to
pavilions
pay
at
the
Buffumville
entire
too.
amount.
They have 2 pavilions at Buffumville that and they do rent those out. So, yeah, that was an interesting idea from them. All things that, you know, could be, if you had personnel to work on these things, all things that could potentially be moneymakers for the town, rather than just.
Great, I mean, I'm sure on behalf of the board, we really appreciate all the work that you guys have put into this. I think it's important that we divulge all this information and review it, and maybe even schedule a time to go down there with Kenny. You can go down there with Kenny and look at all these signs.
Yeah, I agree.
And
yeah.
issues of that nature.
Yeah, I think in sharing it with Mr. Pizzetti, and is it Danielle, the young lady that worked?
No longer. We've,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So that
she used to,
position's
but I forget the young lady's name, but one of her assistants is now going to be the.
Okay. But to share with them, because these are some great
Absolutely.
ideas.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I'd like to also, in this package that I'm going to give Don right now, it'd be good if you could review it. I have the questionnaire that I used at Wallem Lake with all of their suggestions on how they operate things that we're interested in doing for ourselves. And I think there's 15 questions
Okay, great.
in there with what they look at and what their requirements are, even down to hiring staff, how they do it. And signs that are sometimes posted and sometimes not, because there might be lifeguards on duty at one time, and when they're not, they post a sign, not responsible, which relieves the state of any liability if something happens when there's no lifeguards there. And there's other information in here too, as far as information on, just need to get the word, an employee's handbook, which might be a guide for something we could use, not only for the beach personnel, but in general to other employees and departments throughout the town. So I'll
Great.
give this to you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, and so the last thing I just want to let you know is the committee's not meeting anymore. We've done what, you know, we've reviewed what we were asked to do. We haven't had any meetings since, you know, we submitted this, and we don't anticipate. In fact, I'm planning to tender my resignation today because there is nothing else to do. I know that we have a beach subcommittee and the master plan committee, and it seems like, you know, at this point, that probably, they could probably take over from here. So I invited Greg Mancini and Paul,
Brinkley.
no, not Paul Brinkley,
Condon. Paul
Oh, okay.
Condon.
to come tonight, and I didn't hear back from them, so I don't know where they stand, but I'm going to give this letter to Courtney, my resignation.
So maybe someone can send us an email asking to dissolve the committee?
Yeah, that's usually.
If someone could just, I thought I saw an email that said
I
something
had
about.
mentioned, I think, that we were inactive at this point,
Right.
and I didn't send an email exactly wording that, but if you would,
So maybe if we get an email that states that, you know, the committee feels that they've done their job and you just
Okay.
want to dissolve the committee, and then we can act on it then.
All right,
I just think it's better if we do it that way.
then I'll do that. I won't give you
If
my
you- if
letter
you don't
tonight.
mind.
I'll send an email out, just
I also have
explaining
the
that.
same letter, so I'll hold mine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
an individual.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, we really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
so
nice.
much. Next item on the agenda is the Conservation Commission vacancy, and we have 2 candidates. Do you have the one? Oh, here's one. I have one.
There were 2, Mr.
Yeah, I
Audette
have a
and Mr.
Frederick
Bach.
Bach. I don't have the other one. Yeah, I don't have that one. And David Audette. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I just can't read. Gentlemen, come forward. Thank you so much for coming in.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Yes.
we also have Mr. Kabala, who had submitted his letter previously also.
Right, I did receive an email that he was unfortunately going to not be involved
Okay.
with the committee. Thank you so much for coming in and volunteering your time. We certainly appreciate it. We have 1 position available. Possibly 2, another one in June. We're not sure. If you each want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
I'm Dave Audette, over at 17 Fairfield Street, Webster. We do have some property on the lake, and I've been living on the lake for 10 years as well. I am a degreed engineer, so I am familiar with some of the codes and things here on the lake, and I've submitted forms for the 9-to-1 waterways license. I've worked with the Conservation Commission several times over the past 10 years, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the things that goes on.
Great.
And along with the DEP as well.
I'm Fred Bach. I live at 12 Fairfield Street. And basically, I moved to the lake about 2 years ago. And I got contacted, and I decided that it would be a good thing to get involved in. I had some background. When I was in college, I started out in civil engineering and then switched over to industrial management. But I do at least have some of the basic courses.
Sure, sure. Now, did you guys know you both applied for this position and you live on the same street?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Found out about it at different times.
Oh, I was gonna say
It was
that.
just a couple houses down.
Kind of. Questions from the board?
No, it's a shame that there's only 1 available spot. That's the only,
So there might be a second position, so.
Say it again?
So you said there might be a second position.
Yeah, we're not sure, because, yeah, we had asked Courtney about one that's coming up in June, so we're not exactly sure. Are any of these alternates that are on here, do you know?
No.
Are there any alternates available on this committee?
There was no request to provide any alternates for the Conservation Commission, just the zoning board and the planning board.
Okay. So it's a 7-member commission. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3,
And-
4, 5.
And there are 2 positions, Mr. Chairman, that are expiring June 30th.
Right. One we know, and then one we're not sure of. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you're right. There were 2 that are expiring the 30th.
Right.
So,
we've not heard from either if they
either
want to
one of
continue.
them.
Mr. Chairman, had I not met either gentleman, I wouldn't have been able to put the name on the letter with the face. If I just went purely by, because I don't know either gentleman, but I thank you both for coming in. If I just went by what I'm reading in front of me as far as experience, I think Mr. Audette has the more experience. So I hate to have to say it that way, but I can only go based on what I'm seeing here.
To the chair and Mrs. Becker, Selectman Becker, I don't think I'd want to live on Fairfield Street after that, this is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, you know, one of the things that we can possibly do is rather than make a decision tonight, while we appreciate you coming in and now we already know what's going on, we can reach out to these two individuals and see if these individuals are going to stay on.
If they wish to be reappointed.
If they wish to be reappointed, or if not, then we have an easier decision. Does that make logical sense to the board?
If we think our next meeting is the 2 weeks,
In 2
23rd.
weeks.
if that's okay with our two applicants.
It's fine. No problem.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we we'll reach out to the two expiring this year and ask them if they wanted to stay on, and if not, our decision is easier to make on May 23rd. And if they do want to renew, then our decision on May 23rd is slightly more difficult, but we'll make it and move forward. While we extremely appreciate you coming in and volunteering and wanting to volunteer on such an important committee or commission, we will extend it until the 23rd.
Okay. So we have to come back here on the 23rd?
No, you won't have to come back because we've
Okay.
already met
No
you.
problem.
We won't have to tie up any of your time. Is the board in agreement with that?
Certainly, I agree.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thank
Have a
you.
great night. Next item on the agenda is, actually, well, let me take one thing out of order.
Go ahead.
You okay with that?
Please.
Okay. St. Joseph's, well, actually, we're gonna take two things out of order. St. Joseph's Basilica, one-day liquor license request, June 17th, 18th, and 19th. Mr. Mellon, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Sure.
I don't have a problem with it, I'm just going by the one day, how come it's 3 days on there? Or should we vote each day separately? Just a technicality, that's all. I'm not
That's how
opposed
it's
to it.
deemed as
Right.
a one-day liquor license. A nonprofit can apply up to 21 day liquor licenses a year. So that's the term of them are called one day.
Oh, okay, great.
So they can
Oh,
apply
thank
for 21-day liquor
No,
licenses?
no,
if
they
it's
can.
3 days?
In a year. They
Oh,
can
in
only
a
do
year.
21-day liquor licenses in a given calendar year.
Okay.
So in the past, we've done a one-day liquor license, because this has been going on forever,
Yeah,
for the 3-day
for
period.
the 3-day period.
We won't have 23-day events.
You never know.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Courtney, poll the board.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Waterfront Mary's, also out of order, Waterfront Mary's outdoor entertainment request. Was she coming in?
They were told. that it was
Okay, so
being-
we'll postpone that until, if they come in.
May 23rd?
Yes. Do we want to do under new business as well, so the chief can leave?
Go ahead, yeah.
Polish American Citizens Club, April 14, 2016 incident. Chief? Thank you for coming in. Thank you for bringing the nice weather, because the bad weather has been intolerable. The floor is yours.
Through the chair. I'm assuming you had the opportunity to read the reports. So I'm wondering, do you want me to summarize this or just go forward and give you my opinion from here?
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't mind if the chief wanted to give his opinion, so we can read it.
Sure, a summation
mind,
is certainly
Chief.
fine.
Well, as you can see, it was quite an event there. And this was on April 14th, as you can see in the reports, and we responded there, and there's a very large crowd, 100-plus youths that were there, inside and outside. As you can see through Sergeant Wheeler's report, there was one arrest made that night for an open container and a disorderly person. There were underage people there, and here's where I think the board has a little bit of a challenge. Officers can give direct testimony that they observed underage people intoxicated. And certainly we can draw the conclusion that they were drinking there, but we don't have direct evidence of that. We can see that there were open containers in the parking lot, as you can see through the sergeant's email as well. We witnessed numerous open containers, broken bottles in the parking lot. We witnessed full beers and half beers in the parking lot as well. When the officers went inside, they witnessed broken glass inside the hall itself. It was quite a cluster in there, as you can see through the reports. It's interesting to note that we received several 911 calls that night, but not one from the PACC. Not one call came in from that establishment whatsoever. So again, I think we have strong evidence to conclude that patrons were overserved there, which would be a violation. That there were open containers outside, which would be a violation. Again, it is my opinion, although the rules of evidence in a hearing here are less stringent than they would be in a courtroom, it's probably my opinion that we may have some difficulty saying that the underage youths were served inside. For some reason, they allowed this establishment to have underage people there, but allegedly they weren't allowed to drink. We can say that somewhere they got alcohol, and they did consume it to the point of intoxication. And again, officers can give direct testimony to that. The individual that was arrested was observed by the sergeant walking out of the establishment with two full alcoholic beverages in his hand out into the parking lot, where this person became disorderly and was subsequently arrested. So, we have direct testimony, direct evidence that he was outside drinking and coming outside with alcohol, which he should not have been doing. Lieutenant?
Yeah, just we had 3 officers assigned that night. They arrived, they had to call, we had a detective that was working, trying to do some other activity, some other investigations. He came over to assist. We had to call mutual aid from Dudley to assist, and the officers were there for about an hour clearing the parking lot and making sure that everybody got home safe. There was a report of a girl that was injured. It was never located, but they did find through people that were there that she was made her way back to Nichols. The injuries weren't very serious. That was one of their concerns. There was a house apparently in close proximity to the PACC. When the officers arrived, there was a large group of about 100 people in the parking lot, people running, kind of a chaotic scene. They went back to this house over on Lindale, which I believe is a group of kids from Nichols that rent the house. And they had to go there for some disturbances there. Not really any issues, but the officers did a bang-up job, given the fact that they were outnumbered. Making sure everybody got home, making sure that there was nobody driving drunk, making sure people got back to the school safely. They did say that they went inside, and it looked like a fight had broken out. There was broken bottles everywhere, and just to echo what the chief said, there was no calls made from PACC. Last week I think Point Breeze had an event with Nichols, and there was no problems. They bussed all the kids in on school buses, and they bussed them back. I think it was a senior ball or something along those lines.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, there is direct evidence of an over-serving situation, because I believe in the report, the individual is more than 2 times the legal limit for
It's a
being
192
intoxicated.
on a breathalyzer test.
So I think that's something that, we need to consider as well. Did the PACC employees have anything to say as far as what could have prevented this, or anything in their own defense for not calling? And
Nothing that was really articulated
Not
to
to my
us.
knowledge, no.
Someone had called me and reached out to me that was associated with the board there. I have not called them back because I wanted to, have this, discussion with you folks and see what avenue we were taking.
And have they in the past had detail officers there with a group that size, and especially with underage?
I mean, in my lifetime, sir, I can remember some details there for
Okay.
various functions, whether it would be a function such as this, I'm not really sure off the top of my head.
The only other question I would have, Mr. Chairman, is I would assume this is something that we would have to ask the PACC to come in, and I don't know the protocol, whether we have a hearing or not, but
Yeah.
clearly there appears to be violations here that we have to deal with as a board.
If we can see if we can schedule that.
On the 23rd.
And you'll be able to make yourselves available.
I'll have the officers available as well, that Officer Ham, Officer Reed, and Sergeant Wheeler as well.
At 1.92, you're legally drunk at .08.
Oh, wait.
Wow.
That's,
I will say that whenever we have an incident involving a Nichols student, I call up to Nichols, to the college.
sure.
And they've been very receptive, and they appreciate knowing that we have interactions with their students. So,
I'd like to go on record to commend the officers, because I did read the report, and that situation could have gotten ugly
Right.
in the police station, and I think, from what I read, there could have been charges brought, more charges, and I think the restraint was incredible, so
Yeah.
thank you
We
to the
think they did
officers
a
for
great
that.
job. So why don't we schedule that, we're meeting that night at 7 on the 23rd?
Yes.
Is the board okay with meeting at 6:30 for this conversation? So we'll meet at 6:30? Is that a bad time for you, Chief?
That's Monday, the 23rd.
Right.
If I can't make it,
I'll be here.
Lieutenant Ken, I'm going in for a surgery, so.
Understood. With the other officers, or at least one of the other officers as well?
Sure.
Possibly. So we'll schedule that for 6:30 on the 23rd.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, going back to the scheduled agenda, acting town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that the Prop 2.5 override special election will be held on Wednesday, May 18th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. Lawn signs will be placed in highly visible areas around town. The ballot has been posted in the Town Hall, at the library, police, and fire stations. The electronic signboard is in front of the Town Hall advertising the special election. A copy of the ballot is available for viewing on the town's website, including a link from the town's official Facebook page, and will also be included in the May 11th issue of the Smart Shopper. Another reminder that a special town meeting will be held on Monday, June 6th at 6:30 p.m. in the Bartlett High School auditorium. Lawn signs will be placed in highly visible areas around town. A summary of the warrant articles will be advertised in the Telegram and Gazette on Saturday, May 14th. Complete copies of the warrants will be posted in the town hall, at the library, police, and fire stations. The electronic signboard will remain in front of the town hall and updated to advertise the town meetings. The warrants will be available for viewing on the town's website, including a link from the town's official Facebook page, and will also be included in the June 1st issue of the Smart Shopper. Another reminder that the annual town meeting will be held on Monday, June 6th at 7 p.m. in the Bartlett High School auditorium. Again, lawn signs will be placed in highly visible areas around town. A summary of the warrant articles was advertised in the Telegram and Gazette on Sunday, April 24th. Complete copies of the warrants have been posted in the town hall, at the library, police, and fire stations. The electronic signboard will remain in front of the town hall, and again, it will be updated to advertise the town meetings. The warrant is available for viewing on the town's website, including a link from the town's official Facebook page, and it was included in the May 4th issue and will also be included in the June 1st issue of the Smart Shopper. Utility rates will be discussed by the Board of Selectmen on Monday, May 23rd, at their meeting at 7 p.m. The Finance Committee has posted a meeting for Tuesday, May 24th at 5 p.m. Their agenda includes the FY17 budget, enterprise accounts, and the special and annual town meeting warrant articles. The Webster Police Department command staff will be hosting Prop 2.5 informational meetings on Wednesday, May 11th and Monday, May 16th. The meetings will be held in the Police Department Community Room beginning at 7 p.m. The chief and his staff will be available to answer questions detailing the police department's request regarding the override. Hydrant flushing. The water department continues their biannual flushing operations. Please consult the water department's page via the town's website to determine if flushing is occurring in your area. If you experience discolored water, please follow the procedure for flushing discolored water from residential service lines instruction sheet, and you can also find that it's available on the water department's webpage. And again, just a reminder that the Independence Day fireworks display this year is scheduled for Friday, July 1st at Memorial Beach.
Let's entertain a motion.
So moved to
Second.
In the form of discussion, can we put that procedure for flushing discolored water from residential service lines instruction sheet on Facebook as well? On our official Facebook page?
Yep.
Yes.
Greg will
Okay.
take care of that.
Any other discussion?
Would it make sense to add that same information sheet possibly to the addition of the Smart Shopper potentially, if there's room?
We can. It's probably timely since you know, we have had an increase in discolored water calls because of the flushing, so we can do that.
Any other discussion? Good idea. Courtney, poll the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Old business. Under new business, the approval of special town meeting warrant, June 6th, 2016.
Okay. We all set? So, Article 1, to hear and act upon the report and recommendations of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Do you want me to just go through all of them, Mr. Chairman, or how would you like to handle
Has
this?
everyone on the board had a chance to review all of these?
No.
I can go through them and
Actually, yeah.
okay. And as I stated last evening at the special town meeting, we passed over for more information some of the articles, and as I stated, they would be showing up again on this special town meeting warrant. That includes Articles 2, 3, and 4. Article 2 is unpaid bills in the general fund. Article 3 is unpaid bills for the sewer enterprise fund, and Article 4 are unpaid bills for the water enterprise fund.
And Ms. Ledoux, the question had come up, when we do have the information available, we'll provide it on the website as soon as we can,
Absolutely,
the question from last night.
absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
to follow up on Mr. Becker's, as soon as possible is better for everyone at home or wherever, as Mr. Selectman Becker is mentioning, would that be like a week or two prior to the 6th?
I plan on providing this information the night of the Finance Committee meeting, which is May 24th.
24th?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So
Thank
that way the Finance Committee, as I've always done in the past, when the Finance Committee takes up these articles, they're able to see the prior year bills and ask any questions.
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $22,500 to the Police Custodial Services account, or take any action thereon. It's going to be proposed that this $22,500 be taken from within the FY16 budget, from another account, so reallocation from another department. These funds are required because we have a custodian who has been out for a considerable length of time. And we had to employ the services of a private agency to come in and clean the police station, so.
So just a quick question. So with the custodian being out, they still take their sick time? Or-
Correct.
And that's why we're over?
This particular individual has worked for the town for over 30 years, so has the maximum amount of sick and vacation time that they've had accrued and available to them to be paid. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $22,176 to the unused sick leave payment account for the purpose of funding the payment of unused sick leave to James A. Chauvin pursuant to the provisions of Article 22 of the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Webster and SEIU Local 888, the DPW unit, or take any action thereon. Mr. Chauvin, as most are aware, is currently employed as a custodian, full-time in our DPW. He was recently re-elected to the position of treasurer. After the annual town meeting, if the annual town meeting proposed appropriation, bringing that position back to full-time, that being the treasurer, is approved, Mr. Chauvin plans on resigning as custodian for the DPW. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $4,620 to the earned vacation payment account for the purpose of funding the payment of accrued vacation leave to James A. Chauvin, or take any action thereon. Again, the explanation is the same. We accrue our vacation time this fiscal year to use next fiscal year, and Mr. Chauvin, of course, has worked 11 months this fiscal year. It will be 11 months once he tenders his resignation, so he is due that accrued vacation. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury a sum sufficient to the senior center heating fuel account. Again, this was one that was passed over for more information last evening. There is not an amount in here. I did have a conversation with the senior center director, and we are hoping to have our negotiations with NOAA complete so that we can estimate an amount. And we've asked for that to be, I've asked the senior center director for that to be complete again by the Finance Committee's meeting on the 24th. So we do have an amount. The proposal will be again to reallocate funds from within the FY16 budget. No additional appropriation required, just a transfer. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $75,000 to the DPW Snow and Ice Supplies account, or take any action thereon. Again, it's passed over for more information from last night. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury a sum sufficient to the unemployment compensation account, or take any action thereon. Again, passed over for more information last evening. I will be finalizing the number for this also. I want to be able to, our April bill is not posted yet, so I want our April bill so then I can, again, do a more accurate calculation to what we'll need through the end of the fiscal year for this account. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $45,000 to the stabilization fund or take any action thereon. This article and the next article, which is $250,000 to the stabilization fund. We have been in the practice of committing to the community that when we borrow from the stabilization fund, that we will return the money to the stabilization fund. The $45,000 was for the hovercraft back in October of 2014, and the $250,000 was at October 2015's town meeting for the police retroactive pay increases. Article 13, again, passed over for more information last evening. $150,000 to replace 2 sections of roof on the Thompson Road Fire Station. And again, passed over for more information last evening. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from any available funds in the treasury a sum sufficient for the purpose of funding repairs and repaving of the Bartlett High School grounds, including driveways, sidewalks, and entrances, and to provide directional signage throughout the campus. Article 15, this is co-sponsored between myself and the town clerk. To see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 253 of the general bylaws as follows. Section 253-1, notice of meeting. Notice of every town meeting shall be given by publishing notice of the warrant in recommending inserting a newspaper of general circulation within the town at least 7 days preceding the meeting in the case of annual town meeting, and at least 14 days preceding the meeting in the case of special town meetings, and posting attested copies of the complete warrant in the office of the town clerk, at the town library, and on the town website. We are recommending that and public access channel be struck. Is that a word? Struck? Stricken in a legible fashion. So that's the intent of this article. Currently, the bylaw includes the public access channel. We have issues with that. Greg is unable to post the entire warrant on the public access channel. It sends it into a tizzy. Our electronics don't take very kindly to all of that information, so we are suggesting removing that.
Just as a quick question, we could put a note on the public access channel that the information is available?
Absolutely, but it won't be included in the bylaw. The issue that we ran into and why we're suggesting this change is when it comes to our borrowings, bond counsel is extremely diligent, and they're aware of our bylaw and our requirement, and because of our technological issues, there have been some cases where we haven't been able to post the entire warrant on the access channel because they've been too long. If you remember very recently, when Mr. Charpentier was here, he was going through the zoning bylaws, and we had warrants that were several pages long. So we didn't post it on the access channel. There were also borrowing articles. Bond counsel's now coming to us and saying, you know, why didn't you properly post your warrants? We did. We were unable to. Technologically, we were unable to. So that's the reason for this, so we don't have to deal with that.
Any questions for the acting town administrator? Let's take a vote on this, ma'am.
If the board does not wish to, Courtney, they need to just approve the articles on the warrant, but if you wish not to give your recommendations for now and hold off until the 23rd, that's fine. We have plenty of time to update the warrants with your recommendations.
But on the 23rd, you're gonna have all the numbers for us, right?
Yes.
So why don't we hold off so we have all the numbers then?
We just need a vote that you have approved the warrant.
Right,
Right, but as far as your recommendations, you
Right.
can hold off.
okay.
So make a motion to approve the warrant as read.
Is there a second for discussion?
Just a discussion, Mr. Chairman, on the original warrant was for a special town meeting and or the regular town meeting. I was not one of the signatories on that, but I am now, I guess. So Okay, that's all I wanted to say as a matter of record, that's all. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Courtney, pull the board.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Any other new business? Informational mail.
We had a document.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, we had, I guess what regrets, Mr. Scott Hirschberg is resigning from the Webster Dock Committee since he's no longer a town resident. And they've been very active, him and his family, for years. And it's with regrets. I'd ask the board to accept that. Maybe we could send him a note to say thank you for your service.
Sure, if you can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And is this going to be the only opening on the dock committee? Do we have other openings on the dock committee? If not, I'm just suggesting posting it.
Was it a, I'd have to check.
Yeah, we need to.
We have a lot of committees.
Any other informational mail? Oh, yeah. Last item on the agenda is executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation for non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, SEIU Local 888, Clerical Union, SEIU Local 888, DPW Union. Also to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, is 35 Pearl Street. I'll entertain a motion to
So
go
moved,
into
Mr. Chairman.
executive session and not return into open session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Courtney, pull the board.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.